Hi, everyone. Life Coach Carissa here with you today to talk all about feelings. Doesn't that just make some of you want to close this video and run away? Seriously, though, it's interesting to notice that most of us say we don't want to feel our feelings, but the truth is we're feeling them and constantly reacting to them in our everyday life anyway. So why not get in the driver's seat with your feelings to understand them and learn how you can process them in a way that is in the best interest of your health and well-being. The most important work you will ever do is knowing how to feel your feelings, specifically to name them, to understand them, to process them. This is so important because everything we do or don't do is because of how we are feeling. It really does drive our life, our feelings. So today I'm going to share how we define feelings in the coaching world and why feelings matter and how to process your feelings. You know, I am in the midst of a very difficult experience at the moment. I recently lost my father, and I'm having so many different feelings. And these tools have been extremely helpful for me to be able to manage my mindset, my stress levels, my overall well-being. I've been able to recognize days where I'm feeling sadness, disappointment, regret, empathy, frustration, and overwhelm. Each and every feeling has a different energy in my body. And when I can name it and see where it's coming from, it allows me to process it through. When I first learned of my father's passing, I recognized that this wave of emotions came over me. And I was actually trembling, which was really like a physical sensation that was happening. It was like I was sitting out in the cold without a coat on. And because I had done this work, I was able to pause and say, wow, look at what is happening to my body right now. You know, I told myself, like, it's all going to be okay. You're having a reaction to this new information that you were given. And the fact is that your body is physically preparing you for what is to come. So then, you know, that wave of sadness comes. And so talking myself through it was the secret to maintaining some degree of calmness and peace in my life. My old self would not have wanted to feel it. So I probably would have chose to push it away. And I probably would have turned to some of the buffers that I used to do of overworking, over drinking, overeating, and over shopping and over worrying. Those tended to be my go-tos. And I would have ended up creating results in my life that were taking me farther away from what I wanted more of in my life. Or when a feeling might come over me, like those, I might panic and I would run with it and just increase my surge of emotions, and I would begin to feel out of control. And I would believe that all this energy was necessary and it had to be this way. I'd be in the passenger seat, of my brain driving the car, and I wouldn't understand how to gain back control. But because of all this work that I've done and these tools that I've learned and I've put into practice, I handled this news differently. Did it make it feel better? No. I wasn't trying to convince myself to feel better. I was just becoming a watcher of what was happening in my body. And I was being like a best friend to myself. I said, it's going to be okay. Let yourself feel it. Don't resist even the sensation that's coming over you. I reminded myself that I'm strong and I can handle any emotion that comes to me. I have the tools to know how to process this. It will all be okay. I will process this one emotion at a time. Because typically we want to resist, react, or avoid our feelings because feeling the discomfort is not something your primitive brain wants to do. It thinks it's being helpful by offering you thoughts that take you out of the discomfort. Its main goal is to seek pleasure, comfort, and to exert as little energy as possible. So if that's its main goal, sitting and feeling discomfort and processing it is not what it wants you to do. And this is where you have to pause and recognize what is happening and decide, which is when we switch to our prefrontal cortex, our intelligent brain, and you decide what you really want to do in this circumstance. To not just be on autopilot, taking actions at the effect of that toddler brain that we have, that wants what it wants, and it throws a fit until it gets it. So I want to start by defining a feeling. Feelings are the emotions or vibrations we experience in our bodies, and they're directly related to the thoughts that we are thinking. So, examples of feelings would be anger, sadness, excitement. Now, feelings are different from physical, involuntary sensations such as hunger, cold, reflexes, or physical pain. Feelings are voluntary because we can change them by changing our thoughts. So the difference between a feeling and a sensation is that sensations are involuntary and start in the body. Feelings or emotions start in the brain and are a vibration we experience in our body. So for example, if my husband makes me dinner, I may think that that was so nice of him, and that thought creates a feeling in me of appreciation. My husband could also cook dinner, and let's say it's not something I like or felt like having. And I may have a thought of, I don't like what he's made and I don't really want to eat it. And that thought is going to create a feeling in me of disappointment. Can you see how this happens? The thought comes first, and then the feelings follow. So feelings are caused by what we think. You may think your feelings are involuntary and caused by circumstances in your life, but in fact, all feelings are caused by a thought inside your brain. And so often they are just like subconscious thoughts that you've thought before, and they're on autopilot and on repeat. And so your primitive brain just keeps offering them to you in order to be efficient and save energy. So when describing feelings and emotions, it can be very helpful to describe them in like one word, because you can have mixed emotions going on about all different circumstances in your life. So as I was processing the news of my father, I named what I was feeling at different moments. I felt sadness when I first thought about what happened to him. And I felt disappointment when I thought about our relationship. And I felt regret when I thought about our communication and how that's been. I felt empathy when I thought about his physical and mental health struggles. And I felt frustration when I thought about specifics of the circumstances that we were going to now be facing. And then I felt overwhelmed when I looked at the list of all that would need to be done to handle things after his passing. I had so many feelings, right? And so each feeling created a different feeling in my body, a different energy in my body. Sadness could be felt in my heart, a heavy energy that brought tears. And overwhelm felt like a buzzing in my brain and my body and a surge of energy that needed to be used. Can you see how each specific feeling has its own energy and vibration that's created in your body? And each of those specific energies and vibrations will have you taking certain types of actions. So by pausing and recognizing what is happening, I create space so that I can switch from my primitive toddler brain and I can think intelligently about what is happening right now and how do I want to show up in this instance. Sometimes that meant me saying to myself, what I am feeling right now is extreme sadness, and I'm going to let myself sit with it. I'm going to cry. I'm going to get it all out. I won't resist or avoid it. I'm going to let it flow. Our bodies are made to process these feelings and let them move throughout the body and dissipate. It's our resistance that causes more issue and unnecessary suffering. So I hope you can see why feelings matter. Paying attention to your thinking and noticing what you're feeling is not something that people do on a regular basis. As humans, we typically don't like the way negative emotions feel, so a lot of our behavior is in an attempt to change or avoid them. And understanding that is so critical because most people are unaware of what they're feeling most of the time, and they're certainly not able to really label their feelings all that well. So if you want to change your life, you have to become aware of what you're feeling in that present moment. Think about something that you really want. Ask yourself how you think you're going to feel when you get it. Because you'll see in every case, when you want something, it's because of how you believe it's going to make you feel. And this is where we have the authority because we can change our feelings by changing our thoughts. Let's say I want to move to a new house because I believe that a new home will already be done and I don't have to go through all the work of updating it. So my thought is, I want a new home so I don't have to spend the time updating this one. And that thought makes me feel impatient. And so I believe that a new home is the solution to getting rid of that impatient feeling. But should I choose to think, I like this home and I have the opportunity to update it the way that I want, that creates a feeling in me of excitement, possibility. Can you see how your thoughts are so important to the feelings you feel and the actions you ultimately take from those feelings? If I stayed with that feeling of impatience, I'm probably going to be putting my house up for sale and finding a new one because I think that's the answer. But really, maybe what's best is that I look at my thoughts and notice that something else could also be true. This could be a really great experience of redoing the house that I'm in and having all the memories and the experiences and the home that I've lived in as all my kids were growing up. So I pause, right? I don't go take those actions because of that feeling that I'm feeling. So the first step is to create the awareness around our feelings. Start to notice them, create space around them, name them. So now you're learning to feel your feelings and understand them better. Let's look and talk about how to process them. There are three main things that we typically do with uncomfortable emotions. First, we tend to resist them. And this is confusing because so many of us think that resisting emotion is the same as feeling, but it creates no relief. It's the difference between opening the door of an emotion or holding it shut. They both might seem productive, but resistance just creates more tension and perpetuates the emotion even further. And then reacting is just another way that people like to describe feeling. Yelling or screaming or crying is not the same as feeling. When we act out our emotions, we seem to be releasing something and feeling something, but we're often just acting them out and not processing or feeling them at all. Feeling doesn't look like acting. Feeling is something you can do sitting on a chair and feeling that vibration within your body. And then lastly, we want to avoid them by, buffering, which is using something else as a way to distract us from feeling our feelings. Like I mentioned earlier, my buffers to not feel emotion that I didn't like tended to be overworking, over drinking, overeating, over shopping, over worrying. And our culture has made it common to avoid feeling anything. There are opportunities all around us to avoid it and switch to something else that feels better. So when you start to become more aware of your feelings, you'll spend more time observing yourself. And this was weird for me at first because now it feels very natural to notice what's coming up in my body and to name it and process it. But when I first began, it was like, I don't want to do this. This is too much work. This is too hard. It doesn't feel good to feel my feelings. But now I just always remind myself that feelings are harmless and I can feel any feeling, no matter how negative. I have the tools for how to let it flow through me. So allowing a feeling to flow through is a skill set that you'll need to practice, just like any skill that you want to get better at. So you'll want to, number one, describe the emotion in detail. Write it down. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? Where is it in my body? How do I know I'm feeling this emotion instead of a different one? What are the specifics about this one? And then allow yourself to breathe it in. Allow yourself to see it with compassion, to open your heart to it, to move toward it rather than away from it. I remind myself that it's just a vibration and I can handle any emotion. Sometimes the emotion will be so insistent and you'll feel this need to want to resist it or tighten up against it, but just let it be there. Let it buzz, vibrate, let it hurt, whatever it needs to do. As soon as you observe the emotion and describe it, you can often feel it start to soften. Just accept that emotion without judging it. Have compassion for what your body is experiencing. So let me share an example of what this would specifically look like. In the days after learning of my father's passing, I felt strong feelings of sadness. For me, that looked like this heavy weighted blanket laying over my body. It felt like a pain in my heart center. It felt like an upset stomach and no desire to eat. It felt like tears ready to fall at any moment. And when I noticed it and I named it as sadness and I described it, I said, I see you, sadness. I know why you are here. I'm glad you're here. And I found a quiet moment and a quiet place, and I allowed myself to name it out loud. I acknowledged it. I said, I know you need to be here. I said, I need to let you out so that I can protect my health and well-being. You are here to help me. And so then I cried and I sobbed and I let out all of that sadness. And then it softened and then it stopped. Now, this doesn't mean it's one time and it's over. No, this sadness may come up numerous times. And so something I have utilized when sadness comes up and I'm really in the midst of something that I really need to be focused on, I will use this technique. I'll say, I see you, sadness, but right now I really need to focus on this. But I promise I'll come back to you at 5 o'clock today when this is done, and I will see you and I will process you. And that direction was enough to allow me to continue what I needed to do. And I make sure I keep my promises. So I have to come back at 5 o'clock and I have to go to my quiet place and I talk to that sadness and I let it do what it needs to do. So I'm never resisting, reacting, and avoiding. I'm welcoming it. I am allowing it to come up. I name it. I allow myself to feel it and I allow it to soften. And I do this for every single emotion that comes up. The more you do this and practice, the better you get at it. You know, it's to a point now that I can feel the feeling in my body and I can quickly identify. And I ask myself, what thought's driving this? And then I create the space around it to decide what is best for me, to feel the emotion and process it. Or perhaps it's to recognize that this feeling is coming from a thought that is not serving me, and I can choose to change the thoughts. The thoughts your brain offers you are optional. You get to choose. The thoughts your brain offers are optional. So this is really just part one of feelings. There's a whole different focus where you can cultivate the feelings you need to go after the things you want in your life. And you can do this intentionally by thinking thoughts that create that feeling. You know, this is why feelings are so important to the quality of our life, because feelings are the reason for everything we do or don't do. So ask yourself right now, what am I feeling right now? Where is this feeling in my body? What color is this feeling? Is the feeling hard or soft? Is the feeling fast or slow? How does this feeling make me want to react? Why am I feeling this? What am I thinking about when I'm having this feeling? That is where you start. Learning how to name it, describe it, and sit with it is a skill set we would all benefit from. Okay, everyone, I hope that you found this information about feelings helpful, and I hope you'll take away an action step for how you can create awareness in your life around feelings and processing your feelings. Whether you're someone who is already in tune with your feelings or someone who has been resistant to feeling your feelings and your emotions, I hope you will give this a chance. It truly is life-changing for living this 50-50 life that we have and creating more of what you want in your life. I'm telling you, I would not have handled this life event as well as I have without these tools. And you never know when these life events are going to happen to you. So a little bit of work and prevention and adding new tools to your toolbox can make such a huge difference in your life. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can be the first to hear new videos when I release them. And if you like the content that I share, please let me know by subscribing, liking, and sharing. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you next time.